Hello, SHRM family. Welcome to another edition of the WorkplaceTech Spotlight. I'm Guillermo Corea, Managing Director of SHRMLabs, SHRM's Workplace Innovation Lab. I'm your host for this series where we shine a spotlight on some of the most interesting future of work topics, innovators, and disruptive technologies. Before we get started, just some announcements that we wanted to make. Unfortunately, one of the speakers that we had scheduled for today had a last-minute conflict, and she will not be able to join us this morning. But we still have our other speakers, so hang on tight, okay? For SHRM members, just a friendly reminder that the Workplace Tech community is live. This is the TripAdvisor for HR tech, and it's available only to SHRM members. Please visit workplacetechcommunity.shrm.org and join us in the discussions. For those of you watching on LinkedIn or other social media platforms, please share this live stream and tag SHRM. You can also use the hashtags SHRMLabs and WorkplaceTech. So let's get on to today's topic. In today's competitive talent market, staying ahead means thinking outside the box. We're talking about harnessing the power of technology, from cutting-edge AI tools to the reach of social media and even non-traditional platforms like Discord. It's all about finding innovative ways to find and attract talent. And untapped young talent could be the type of change your organization needs. According to SHRM, diverse organizations are not just inclusive, they're also 35% more likely to financially outperform their competitors. That's a statistic that definitely demands our attention. Here's another eye-opener. A whopping 71% of HR professionals surveyed aren't currently working on evaluating untapped candidates. That's a massive amount of potential waiting to be explored. And speaking of the future, by 2030, the oldest members of Generation Z, those aged 20 to 25, will make up 8.3% of the workforce, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. They are the most ethnically and racially diverse generation, and they're telling us they want to see that diversity reflected in the workplace. And that starts with who you bring in the door to work at your organization. So ask yourself, are you leaving talent on the table? So joining us to talk about this topic today is Eddie Lin, CEO and founder of Nexus Edge. Eddie, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the stage. Before we begin, I just wanted to say major congratulations to you and your team on winning Google's Cloud Customer of the Year award in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is a major, major achievement when you take into consideration all the different companies that use Google Cloud out there. So major congratulations. Welcome to the stage, and maybe we can start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Nexus Edge.
Yeah, thank you so much, Guillermo. I really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Eddie Lin. I'm the co-founder of Nexus Edge. We work with schools and companies to combine education and recruiting to train and identify the next generation of talent.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Well, let's get right to today's topic, right? Since we have a small amount of time. What problems are the ones that you're seeing with organizations or that organizations are encountering related to next-gen talent?
Well, a lot we focused on is creating DEI solutions to help really scale that process across the different companies. Because one of the biggest challenges right now is if you've been to the SHRM annual, that you'll see the decrease in DEI budgets, while at the same time the expectation of the same high level of results. So along with technology that we've seen to scale any sort of human invention, that's what we're going to rely on now. In terms of having to be able to create that level of reach to identify that next generation in areas that have been challenging to reach before.
Fantastic. So, when you think about HR professionals out there, right, why should they turn to technology to help solve this problem? Are you seeing organizations approach this problem in other ways, especially when you start thinking about what you just said a second ago, right? DEI budgets are definitely being cut back, and it's something that we are seeing at SHRM, across our members.
Yeah. So traditionally, when it comes to recruiting, there's been a lot of in-person interaction when it comes to sending large teams to different campuses to go and recruit at career fairs And that's been effective in building in-person relationships is critical, especially when finding new team members. But as the world becomes more diverse and spread out, one of the biggest things we have to figure out is how do we lean on technology to scale the long-term processes that we've been using throughout this whole generation. So leaning on technology allows folks to be able to reach out to different campuses and build those communities there, that to find non-traditional candidates, to expand your talent pool. By expanding the talent pool, that has a lot of different benefits in terms of creating innovation as well as reducing costs and increasing retention as well.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about Discord? I think a lot of people aren't, and I'll be fully front with you. I'm not even very familiar with Discord, so maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about that.
Yeah,
and what's an example, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Discord is very interesting in its history. If you're familiar with it, it started out as a tool for gamers, actually, as they were gaming to communicate with each other. So what does that have anything to do with HR, is what we ask. Oh, what's interesting is during 2020, when all the students were locked indoors, Discord became the place where they essentially had online community for colleges. So every student was on Discord essentially, and they were self-organizing, and some of those online communities were within their own classes to both collaborate and follow up with some instructors as well. And that made it a very interesting target if you're recruiting Gen Z, because the easiest way to recruit for anything, for any platform, is to go where the people already are. So this is how Discord evolved into a way to be able to reach Gen Z. But at the same time, how do you change that into recruiting? So we've seen companies be able to turn Discord into a way to engage with different Gen Z students. One of the biggest things that you always hear about from them is that they don't feel like they're engaged with the company. They do submit resumes through websites, but it's been a great point of frustration about how do you best position yourself. And that's how a lot of great candidates get lost in the shuffle. They just don't know how to position or market themselves. And being able to engage with a company has really been able to help get them excited about working at that company. They get to learn more about that company when there is a community for them to engage with existing employers, where they have like representatives from those companies on the Discord channel. So we've seen essentially a gaming service become a great way for Gen Z to interact with current employees and build interest in that company.
Very interesting. So are you, just one follow-up question there. So are you saying that, HR professionals should create a profile in Discord and I guess so, it's kind of like engaging, right? It's a place where you can come in and start engaging with these candidates, right?
Yeah, in a very odd sense, we've seen this through our own personal experience, is that HR professionals should create their own Discord server for their company and then organize a series of channels. And, you talk to lots of different students out there who've created their own clubs. And there's a lot of folks who can advise on that, because definitely there's things that are specialized to Discord that really get that knack of what Gen Z is expecting in terms of the organization of Discord. So best practices have to be out there too, but there's a lot of folks who can help with that. And I think that all HR organizations should start building out a Discord server to really engage with their next generation of talent.
Fantastic. By the way, shout out to Josh Rock out there who's listening to us and just commented that Discord is the new Pinterest. Very, very funny. All right. So going back to the organizations, right? How can finding non-traditional new talent impact the organization? Organizations, right?
So one of the things from my own career history that's meant a lot to me in terms of DEI is it's also very good business. So I was an alum of Goldman Sachs during the financial crisis, actually. And one of the big things I felt throughout the culture was that diversity in background creates diversity in thought. Diversity in thought leads to great levels of innovation. I felt like that level of innovation was one of the big reasons why they performed better during the 2008 financial crisis. And that level of innovation being driven by our various backgrounds to think differently. It avoids challenges like groupthink where everyone's going to say the same thing because they all have the same background and come from the same place. So that's why I think diversity is good business as well as the right thing to do.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've done this show a few times now, and we've had some segments related to DEI, right? And the one thing that I always bring up when, as it relates to the DEI is that forget about that it's the right thing to do, right? It's been well proven now that those organizations that truly support DEI make their performance is just skyrockets, right? Especially from a financial perspective. And I think Goldman Sachs is a perfect example of that. As a matter of fact, Goldman Sachs started a policy where they no longer take companies public. They no longer do IPOs if their boards are not diversified, right? And that goes in line with having a diverse thought throughout the organization. You're able to bring in more ideas, right? Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the way especially since these days companies operate globally, so you can't really understand your audience unless you have people within your team to really know the subtleties of how do you do business across the entire world. And that's difficult to have unless you have someone on your team who really understands the background of the people you're trying to work with. So I think that's basically a requirement in this new age of globalization.
Absolutely. So hey, you just attended Google's Next conference, right? So lots of discussion there around generative AI. AI has been in the news, all over the place, right? So what's one big trend that you can share with our audience that's going to manifest itself as especially as we head towards the end of 2023?
Yeah, I think the consensus is that AI is going to disrupt every industry, and it's something that's big and here to stay. I think one of my big takeaways from the conference is this technology is still so new from an enterprise context, at least, is that they're still trying to find the best applications within their industry. So everyone is still innovating right now. But I think one of the big takeaways there is that just be ready to find a way to incorporate within your organization, because that seems to be the trend, whether or not you're in consumer products, whether or not you're in SaaS software, it doesn't matter. Just trying to find the way that works for you. So right now, people are putting together their first iterations of products for their companies and their industry. Specifically within HR, since we're all here, it seems like it's more than just some early products you've seen around this is terms of student-facing coaching tools. That's one thing. But I think something that we've talked about as well during the conference was scenario-based hiring to really get a better chance of whether or not these candidates will be a fit for companies. So being able to scale a way to identify candidates by personality fit for more accuracy and longevity within the company is one of those use cases that we've thought hard about that just comes across a lot throughout the HR space in the conference.
Yeah, actually, this period of time right now reminds me of, like when mobile apps were coming out, back in, let's say 2011, 2012. I mean, I clearly remember being at a mobile conference where one of the speakers said, hey, this is just getting going right now. Anybody's an expert in it, but companies were at that same stage where they were trying to figure out, okay, what do we do on the mobile side of things, right? So I think we're at that same point with AI, right? That everybody sees the potential for AI, right? But it's still ground zero as far as like really, there being like a true way of using it in the business world, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see if you think back in the day where the earliest mobile apps weren't exactly the most practical, but
remember the fish app, the one that that was like one of the first ones, right?
Oh, I used all kinds of apps I can't even believe made it to be apps. But I think over time, you really got to see as those apps matured, how much we rely on them on a day-to-day now. And that wasn't even that long ago. And I expect the same. I expect the same for AI as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, last question for you. Are there any valuable resources that HR professionals who are watching this might find, helpful?
Yeah, I think in general they all flow to you anyway. So whatever comes up, particularly in AI, it'll probably come up to SHRM. You collect all the resources anyway. On our side, we always send what we've got to you too. So there's just a lot out there right now. It's in terms of just vetting it, because everywhere you look, you'll find something about AI or large language models or something. I think it's just about looking at it, what makes sense within the context of your business.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today, Eddie. Thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for those of you out there, if you'd like more information about Nexus Edge, please visit them at nexusedge.com. Thank you all for tuning into the SHRMLabs Workplace Tech Spotlight. If you enjoyed this live stream, please share it using hashtag SHRMLabs, Workplace Tech, and SHRM. Visit us at SHRMLabs.com to stay up to date, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday weekend.